What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction and back with some more Tori Amos. Once again, big shout out to Nigel for providing the material in this deep dive, and we are now returning to Boys for Pele, an album I briefly began going through before I then jumped back in time to go through both Little Earthquakes and Under the Pink. And yes, we're returning to the third track on the album, which is to say I went through Beauty Queen and Horses already, so the next track in the playlist is Blood Roses. It's a dramatic phrase, it has a very visual element, a bit of poetry. Of course, roses can be different colors, but they are most famously associated with a deep red color, which of course is like the gleaming crimson of blood. And if it's more conceptual or figurative than just visually, then of course the idea that blood could be bound up in some deep meaning, the essential essence of something, and of course one can prick one's finger on the thorns of a rose, which can cause actual bleeding. So I feel like there's some different ways this could go, more literally / visually, or more figuratively / metaphorically. I'll see what I can catch on a first listen. This is Tori Amos. The track is Blood Roses, and it's from her 1996 album Boys for Pele. Oh! Baroque harpsichord?
Blood roses, back on the street now. Blood roses, back on the street now. Can't forget the things you never said. On days like these stops me thinking. When chickens get a taste, you're me, girl. When chickens get a taste, you're me, yes. You gave him your blood and you warmed it down. He likes killing you after you died. You think I'm a queer? I think you're a queer. Say I think you're a queer. I think you're a queer. I shaved every place when you've been, boy. I said I shaved every place when you've been, yeah. Once had a tango round and round your feet, round and round like good little roses. Blood roses, back on the street now. Blood roses, back on the street now. Now, you cut out the flute from the throat of the loon. At least when you cry now, you can't even hear you. Chickens get a taste, you're me, girl. Come on, come on, come on, come nothing but me.
I don't even know how to begin unpacking this. Okay, so I'll try to start sonically because I have a little more sense of what I heard in that regard. Obviously, the harpsichord is the central sound. It's the main element mixed with, of course, her voice. And I would say, even by Tori standards, her vocal delivery here is eccentric. It's unusual, almost like animalistic in a couple points. So definitely, even for someone who's off in her own universe, in terms of her creativity, in terms of her vocal work, this one stands out for its eccentricity, not in a bad way, but definitely you can't help but notice that she's doing some like very different things here, like breathing delivery, where she's literally like sing breathing. Then again, that moment at the end, almost like she was making like chicken-like noises or again animal style sounds. And then some other moments where she's like letting her voice crack, almost like, go outside the melodic lines on purpose. And then again, the harpsichord going from like deep and heavy right up to the very high notes, which, given the sound of the harpsichord, that very like metal or mechanical, like plucked string like keys, it has this not only Baroque sound, but almost like this refined character to it, which I suppose that's, at least for me, subjectively, in part because when I think of harpsichord music, I think of, aristocratic circles in the late 1700s or 1600s and the late 17th century is what I was trying to say. But the finery of those who were lucky enough to be able to, patronize the composers and those who were writing music for the harpsichord. And yet at the same time there's a bit of a contrast here, because it sounds like, to sort of dive into the lyrics a little bit, although I should mention the guitar first, I feel like there were a couple moments where there were these like very intense and lower end guitar chords that sort of intruded on that aristocratic finery type sound. But then so lyrically there's phrases that I seem to catch, at least in part, but I don't really know. It's like, number one, she seems to talk about like blood roses. Are they like out on the street somewhere? And then she was talking what I thought was something like, the chicken's gonna eat your meat, but I don't know if it was actually chicken. Like, it feels like that word could be something different, but like going to eat your meat. And then like, he likes killing you when you're already dead. And I heard these like bells, almost like a dirge bell in the background. Again, the harpsichord was sort of, taking over the whole sonic atmosphere. So it wasn't until like the second or third one that I really started to notice this quick bell contribution. But then I wondered, okay, so he's killing you when you're, or he likes killing you when you're dead, which, sounds, number one, like overkill, but also, I don't know if sadism is the right word, but there's a desire to destroy or obliterate what has already been, had their life taken away. And then what was the line? It was like, oh, there's a part that I'm like now blanking on. But so then it sounded like a moment where I was thinking like something like a ring or a circle, and I was like, oh, like it reminds me of the nursery rhyme Ring Around the Rosie, which is a pretty crazy, like a nursery rhyme about people dying from the plague, which, it's weird the way like nursery rhymes and tales told to children often related in earlier centuries to, like worries and fears and dangers. And so it was a way to like, the world's a tough place, it's a brutal place, so, get ready for that, kids. But so I wondered if maybe there was a connection there, but then, I didn't hear enough to really get a sense of that. And then at the end it was like, it sounded like she was describing like a sexual act. And then I like wanted like, whoa, so have I like misheard everything up until this point? So like it sounds like, we're talking about death and flesh and blood roses and, killing something that's already dead. So the sonic character of this very, rich and metallic harpsichord seems like it's running at a different direction than the lyrics, or perhaps is contrasting deliberately lyrics that seem to be much more intense and macabre and violent. So yeah, I really don't know what just happened, including, the way the Sonics may or may not be set apart from or running in the same direction as the themes at play, but just an incredible vocal delivery, which again, even by Tori standards, was wild and like unpredictable, and a song that I don't really know what it's about, but it seems like it's very, again, intense and dark, at least in terms of the visuals and the biological consequences of what's being talked about, although again, maybe with a couple moments that made me wonder if I was even understanding anything. So I'm very much looking forward to the comments on this one. Don't know what will be coming down the barrel, if you will, in terms of the rest of the album, but I do wonder, the title phrase of the album, I'm still thinking about Boys for Pele and what that might mean, whether it'll be a lyric in one of the songs. So yes, ultimately, just another example of why she's, an artist of one. She does stuff that I've never heard any other artist do, which, again, to go back to the very beginning of this, when I began this album, I mentioned that my older brother, who was always into, like, unconventional music, introduced me to, like, trance and techno, which is why, I became a DJ and a raver by, over the next couple years after that, and was always looking for artists that were, like, really off the beaten path. The more I hear from Tori, the more it's like, of course he liked Tori. Like, of course he was into this artist who's just crazy and, like, off in her own dimension. So, in any case, cool to come back to this album. Thank you again to Nigel and to all the folks who've been commenting so far on this deep dive. Let me know what you think, and I will see you next time. Peace.